Asterisk, who had left the flash drive on Traoré's desk. The palace security cameras showed nothing. When he curiously opened it, a French document appeared on the screen. Operation Eclipse, Traoré Threat Analysis. The sentences he read would change. The fate of all Africa. Ibrahim Traoré stared at the small flash drive lying on his desk. It was an ordinary black device, unmarked and innocuous. Yet its presence in his private office inside the presidential palace of Burkina Faso was deeply concerning. Who had left it there, and how had they bypassed the extensive security protocols? Asterisk, Conate, he called to his security chief, who stood by the door. Check the surveillance footage. I want to know who entered my office in the last 24 hours. Asterisk, Colonel. Amara Conate, a veteran soldier with piercing eyes that missed nothing, nodded sharply. Right away, Mr. President. Asterisk, as Conate left, Traoré contemplated the flash drive. The rational response would be to have it analyzed by cybersecurity experts before opening it, a standard procedure for unexpected electronic devices that might contain malware. But something about its deliberate placement in the center of his desk, perfectly aligned with his notebook, suggested this was no ordinary security threat. Asterisk, after several minutes of consideration, Traoré made his decision. He connected the flash drive to an isolated laptop kept specifically for security purposes, one with no network connection and minimal software. If this was a cyber attic, the damage would be contained. Asterisk, the drive contained a single folder labeled Eclipse. Inside was a PDF file titled Operation Eclipse, Traoré Threat Analysis. The document was in French, with official French Foreign Ministry letterhead, classification markings, and what appeared to be authentic digital signatures. Asterisk, Traoré's heart rate quickened as he began to read. Top secret, eyes only. Asterisk, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of France. Asterisk, Directorate of Strategic Affairs and Security. Asterisk, date March 17, 2023. Asterisk, subject Operation Eclipse, Neutralization Strategy for Burkina Faso Situation Overview. The rapid consolidation of power by Captain Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso represents an unprecedented threat to French strategic interests in West Africa. Unlike his predecessors, Traoré has demonstrated both the ability and determination to fundamentally restructure Burkina Faso's relationship with France, particularly regarding mineral resources, military cooperation, and regional influence. Asterisk, threat assessment. Intelligence indicates Traoré is actively working to 1. Nationalize French-owned mining operations, particularly gold and recently discovered lithium deposits. Asterisk. 2. Terminate military cooperation agreements that provide France with strategic positioning in the Sahel. Asterisk. 3. Establish an African resources coalition with Mali, Niger, and potentially Guinea to collectively renegotiate terms with Western powers. Asterisk. 4. Develop alternative financial structures to reduce dependency on the CFA franc. Asterisk. Most concerning is the contagion effect Traoré's policies are having on neighboring countries. Polling data shows alarming increases in anti-French sentiment across former colonies, with Traoré emerging as a symbolic figure of African resource sovereignty. Asterisk. Directive. Asterisk, Operation Eclipse is hereby authorized to neutralize the Traoré threat through multiple vectors. Phase 1. Economic pressure frees all Burkina government assets in French financial institutions. Asterisk, coordinate with international financial institutions to suspend lending programs. Asterisk, activate business intelligence network to withdraw investments, simultaneously creating economic shock. Asterisk, Phase 2. Political destabilization. Asterisk, leverage relationships with opposition figures. See Appendix A for asset list. Asterisk. Amplify tribal and religious divisions through media operations. Deploy informational warfare units to attribute economic hardships to Traor's policies. Phase 3. Military contingency prepare special operations. Units for targeted extraction or neutralization, authorization pending. Support loyal. Military elements for potential stabilization operation, see Appendix B. Position aerial assets for rapid deployment if necessary. Timeline. Implementation to begin immediately. Traoré must be neutralized within 90 days before his African Resources Coalition can be formalized. If unsuccessful, economic models predict loss of exclusive access to West African resources valued at €17.4 billion annually. Authorization. Approved by National Security Council Meeting 47B Minister of Foreign Affairs signature. Director of Foreign Intelligence Addendum. All communications regarding Operation Eclipse must be conducted through secure channels only. This operation's existence is denied at all classification levels. As Traoré finished reading, a cold sensation spread through his body. He had suspected French interference, but the clinical detachment with which his removal was discussed as if he were merely an obstacle to resource extraction rather than the leader of a sovereign nation filled him with both rage and determination. His suspicions about France's continued neo-colonial ambitions had just been confirmed in the most explicit way possible. But questions remained. Who had leaked this document and why? The door opened as Colonel Koné returned, his expression troubled. Mr. President, we have reviewed the security footage. No one entered your office in the past 24 hours except authorized personnel. However, there is a 3-minute gap in the recording between 2:14 and 2:17 a.m. A gap? Explain. It appears professional, sir, not a technical glitch. Someone with access to our security systems deliberately created that window. Traoré nodded slowly. So our mysterious informant has access to both French intelligence documents and our palace security systems. That narrows the possibilities considerably. There's something else, sir, Koné said, hesitating. Minister Dio has been attempting to reach you urgently. He says the French ambassador is requesting an immediate meeting regarding concerning developments in bilateral relations. Traoré smiled grimly. I imagine he is. He turned the laptop screen toward Koné. It seems we're on a timeline. According to this, we have less than 90 days before France attempts to remove me from power. Koné's eyes widened as he scanned the document. Sir, this is an act of war. No, Colonel. This is colonialism rebranded as strategic interest. Traoré stood, his decision made. Assemble the Security Council immediately and contact the leaders of Mali, Niger, Guinea, and Togo. The timeline for our African Resources Coalition just accelerated. As Koné left to carry out his orders, Traoré returned to the document, studying the list of assets in Appendix A. Several names were highlighted: members of his own cabinet, military officers, tribal leaders. People France believed could be leveraged against him. One name in particular caught his attention: Marcel Dubois, cultural attaché at the French embassy. Except Traoré knew from military intelligence briefings that Dubois was actually DGSSE French, Foreign Intelligence. The document listed him as primary operational coordinator. A plan began forming in Traoré's mind. Within hours, the presidential palace was transformed into a crisis command. Center security had been heightened and trusted military units positioned at strategic locations throughout the capital. The Security Council, comprising military leaders, key ministers, and intelligence officials gathered in the secure conference room. Asterisk. The document appears authentic, confirmed Defense Minister Sawato. After expert analysis, digital signatures match known French officials, and the formatting is consistent with their classified documentation. Asterisk. How do we respond, Mr. President? Asked Foreign Minister Arago. A formal protest to Paris would reveal our source. Asterisk. Tro paced the room, considering his options. We don't protest. We prepare and we act. He turned to face his counsel. France has operated in the shadows for decades, maintaining the illusion of African independence while controlling our resources and governments. It's time we brought their methods into the light. He outlined his strategy, a bold three-part plan to counter each phase of Operation Eclipse. Instead of reacting defensively to their economic pressure, we'll preemptively protect our financial system. Effective immediately, we're transferring our foreign reserves from French banks to a distributed network across Asian and Middle Eastern institutions. Minister of Finance, you have 48 hours. Asterisk. The finance minister nodded, though his expression revealed concern about the ambitious timeline. Asterisk. Second, we accelerate the African Resources Coalition. Not in 90 days, but in 30. I've already spoken with President Guaida of Mali and President Tani of Niger. They're facing similar pressures and are ready to formalize our alliance immediately. Asterisk. Murmurs of approval spread through the room. The coalition had been in planning for months, but this crisis created the urgency needed to overcome bureaucratic obstacles. Asterisk. Finally, Tro continued, his voice hardening, we neutralize their assets. Colonel Kate will lead a counterintelligence operation to identify and monitor every individual named in this document. We won't arrest them yet. We'll feed them controlled information, creating confusion in French intelligence circles. Asterisk. And what about the French embassy personnel coordinating this operation? Asked Kate. Asterisk. A cold smile crossed Tro's face. We invite them to dinner. Asterisk. 2 nights later, the presidential palace hosted a diplomatic reception officially celebrating Franco-Burkina cultural cooperation. The real purpose was far different. Marcel Dubois, the cultural attaché whose name appeared in the leaked document, accepted his invitation eagerly, a perfect opportunity to assess the situation and potentially meet with French assets in the Burkina government. What he didn't expect was to be seated directly beside President Tro himself. Monsieur Dubois. Tro greeted him warmly, as if they were old friends. I've been meaning to discuss your excellent cultural exchange program. I understand you've been particularly active in our military regions. Asterisk. Dubois maintained his composure, though a flicker of unease crossed his face. Mr. President, I go where French culture has the most impact. Your military officers often appreciate our language training programs. Asterisk. Indeed, Tro replied, taking a sip of water. Language is so important, isn't it? I've been practicing my French lately. In fact, I recently learned some new phrases. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Operation Eclipse, for instance, a fascinating term, wouldn't you agree? The color drained from Dubois's face. Another interesting phrase, Tro continued pleasantly, is Primary Operational Coordinator. An impressive title. Asterisk. Dubois placed his napkin on the table, preparing to leave. Mr. President, I'm not sure what you're implying, but asterisk, please, Tro interrupted, his smile never wavering. Enjoy your meal. We have much to discuss about cultural cooperation. For instance, I'm particularly interested in French cultural attitudes toward national sovereignty. Asterisk. Throughout dinner, Tro continued his psychological operation, dropping precise details from the classified document into seemingly innocent conversation. By dessert, Duboubia was visibly shaken, excusing himself early with claims of sudden illness. As the French operative hurried from the palace, Traoré nodded to Kaunate, who discreetly followed. They didn't need to arrest or expel Dubois. Panic would do more damage to French operations than his absence. He would report back that their operation was compromised, throwing their intelligence networks into chaos as they tried to identify the leaked asterisk the next morning. Traoré addressed the nation in a televised broadcast that was deliberately not announced in advance to foreign media. Citizens of Burkina Faso, he began, his expression solemn. For too long, our nation has lived under the illusion of independence, while foreign powers continue to control our resources, our economy, and even our political leadership. Without directly mentioning the leaked document, he announced a series of sweeping measures: the formation of the African Resources Coalition with Mali, Niger, Guinea, and Togo, the establishment of a new regional currency backed by gold reserves, the renegotiation of all mining contracts, and the creation of a sovereign economic zone free from Western financial controls. The path ahead will not be easy, he acknowledged. Those who have profited from Africa's exploitation will not surrender their privileges without resistance. We must be prepared for economic pressure, political attacks, and even threats to our security. What he said next would be remembered as the moment that transformed not just Burkina Faso, but potentially the entire post-colonial relationship between Africa and the West. To those foreign powers who believe they can determine Africa's future from comfortable offices in distant capitals, your time has passed. We see your operations. We know your agents. We understand your methods. Africa is no longer your resource depot, your strategic backyard, or your geopolitical playground. International reaction was immediate and polarized. Western media outlets characterized Traoré's speech as inflammatory, destabilizing, and potentially harmful to international cooperation. African media, however, reported unprecedented scenes of public support across multiple countries. In Paris, an emergency cabinet meeting was convened. The French foreign minister faced difficult questions. How had a highly classified operation been compromised? Why was Burkina Faso suddenly coordinating so effectively with neighboring countries? Most pressingly, how should France respond to what amounted to a direct challenge to its influence in West Africa? Over the following weeks, the situation escalated rapidly. As predicted in the leaked document, France froze Burkina assets only. To discover most had already been moved. International financial institutions announced the routine review of lending programs to Burkina Faso and its coalition partners, but alternative financing had already been secured through BRICS nations. Most dramatic development came 30 days after Traoré discovered the flash drive on his desk. In a ceremony in Ouagadougou, attended by the leaders of Mali, Niger, Guinea, Togo, and observers from a dozen other African nations, the African Resources Coalition was formally established. The treaty included mutual defense provisions, collective resource negotiation protocols, and most significantly, a framework for a new regional currency backed by gold, lithium, and other strategic minerals. Traoré, standing before the assembled leaders, held up a gold coin, the first minted prototype of the new currency. This, he declared, represents more than economic policy. It represents the principle that Africa's wealth belongs to Africa.